I basically said that the message of the church, my message, the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers. I do not look at my role as being political or politician. I don't want to get into a debate with him. I don't think that the message of the gospel is meant to be abused in the way that some people are doing. And I will continue to speak out loudly against war, looking to promote peace, promoting dialogue and multilateral relationships among the states, to look for just solutions to problems. Too many people are suffering in the world today. Too many innocent people are being killed. And I think someone has to stand up and say, there's a better way to do this. So,
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
President Trump overnight.
I did see it.
What did you think? He said that you were terrible foreign policy, the fear of the Trump administration.
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe I am called to do, what the church is called to do. We're not politicians. We're not looking to make foreign policy, as he calls it, with the same perspective that he might understand it. But I do believe that the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers, is a message that the world needs to hear today.
Thank you very much for clarifying.
The things that I say are certainly not meant as attacks on anyone. And the message of the gospel is very clear, blessed are the peacemakers. I will not shy away from announcing the message of the gospel, of inviting all people to look for ways of building bridges for peace and reconciliation, of looking for ways to avoid war anytime that's possible, to put my message on the same plane as what the president has attempted to do here, I think is not understanding what the message of the gospel is. And I'm sorry to hear that, but I will continue on with what I believe is the mission of the church in the world.
All right, Pope Leo is responding to some critical new comments from President Trump. In a lengthy post on Truth Social yesterday, which we have shortened here, the president called Pope Leo weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy before referencing the church's actions during COVID. Here's what the president and Pope Leo had to say about those comments.
I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo.
I will not shy away from announcing the message of the gospel, of inviting all people to look for ways of building bridges for peace and reconciliation, of looking for ways to avoid war anytime that's possible. To put my message on the same plane as what the president has attempted to do here, I think is not understanding what the message of the gospel is.
All right, joining us this morning is CBS News special correspondent Norah O'Donnell. So, Norah, Adriana and I were joking earlier that it feels like the last time this happened is when the papacy moved to Avignon, France, back in the Middle Ages, when the King of France was attacking the papacy, because it's so unusual to have a head of state so specifically attack a pope. How unusual is this for you, just in your time covering the papacy as a journalist?
I mean, it's incredibly unusual. But remember, Pope Leo XIV is the first U.S.-born pope, an American pope who is using his voice as largely the chief critic against the U.S. war in Iran. Popes are not partisan, but they can be political. They weigh in on the great moral and political questions of the world all the time. And it is a powerful voice because there are 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. 20% of the U.S. population is Catholic. 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are Catholic. The vice president.
I didn't realize it was that
yes.
many.
And the Secretary of State.
And the Secretary of State, Catholic. So this is really interesting as you've seen the Holy Father's rhetoric sharpen over the last several weeks. And what was really interesting is after we aired our piece on 60 Minutes last night with these 3 top cardinals here in the United States, these high-ranking cardinals. Clearly, the president looks like he was watching 60 Minutes, and he responded with that Truth Social post and then 2 cameras. And then now, Pope Leo responding this morning says he has no fear of the Trump administration and that he will continue speaking out against the war in Iran. This has gotten to a whole new level. This is at a whole new level.
I thought the Pope actually saying the Trump administration verbatim was really notable because before he'd been speaking out against war, speaking for peace, saying how this is all part of the gospel.
In fact, up until this moment, he had not specifically named the president.
Exactly. We want to play a bit of the 60 Minutes piece that you had last night. It was great. You spoke with, of course, the members of the clergy, 3 cardinals here in the U.S., and spoke to them about the type of leader Pope Leo is. Let's take a listen to that.
We're the 3 American cardinals that are actively serving dioceses right now. So we listen to a lot of people. It's part of the job description. And I think we're aware of the anxieties of people about the threats to peace at all different levels.
Would you like to see this first American Pope be more outspoken on issues that he disagrees with?
He's the pastor of the world. He's not a pundit. So the distinction is he's not going to pronounce on everything, but he's going to pronounce on what's important.
They were really revealing about the Pope's leadership style and how he's pushing the envelope, encouraging people to become active. What did they tell you?
Yeah, well, you know, cardinals are known as princes of the church. And as we just heard Cardinal Tobin say, what's unique about them is that they lead archdioceses. So they are familiar with people who are in the pews. And they say they are witnessing a profound amount of human suffering. Pope Leo said that today. Too many people are suffering in the world today. Too many innocent people are being killed. And I think someone has to stand up and say, there's a better way. This is profound. This is quite profound. And I think that's why the president engaged with these church leaders that were on 60 Minutes last night and Pope Leo. However, I think the way that President Trump engaged last night with his words and this True Social post, and then posting this picture of himself, portraying himself as if he is a holy figure or Jesus Christ, will be called by some blasphemous. We've already seen that this morning. And not only offend Catholics, but other Christians as well, as we have seen that reaction. I think it is notable today. There's a Bishop Robert Barron who serves on the Presidential Commission on Religious Liberty. He's considered a conservative bishop. This morning, he has put out that he thinks the President of the United States owes Pope Leo an apology. He called the president's remarks inappropriate and disrespectful. That's strong from this bishop who is very close with President Trump.
And we should point out, first of all, it's incredibly important that the Pope is doing this now, because in the past, as we all know, previous popes during World War II have subsequently been called out for not taking a strong moral stance against, for example, what was happening in Nazi Germany with the Holocaust. And in just the time that we've been sitting here on the air, Nora and Adriana, the Iranian president, again, not to excuse the horrific atrocities that the Iranians have been accused of, but the Iranian president has just released a statement on behalf of a great nation. I'm quoting here: "I condemn the insult directed at you and declare and the disrespect towards Jesus, peace be upon him, the prophet of peace and brotherhood, is unacceptable to any free-minded person." So this is even the Iranian president, whether you want to say that they're trolling or not, coming out and saying they are a theocracy, saying that this is an attack.
I think it's propaganda. I think that's clearly propaganda, and part of this is a propaganda war that is being waged as well. But I think what is interesting about the Catholic Church, as you point out, is the history of the Catholic Church. And there have been instances, certainly, where the church gets, many instances where the church gets involved in politics. You know, Pope John Paul II specifically made it clear to President George W. Bush that he opposed the war in Iraq.
Right.
You know, the bishops have in recent months put out a joint statement criticizing the mass deportation campaign by President Trump. That is very rare for them to do that. The last time they had done it was 13 years prior, when they actually put out a statement decrying the contraceptive care mandate during President Obama. So to say that, you know, the Catholic Church and bishops, they do get involved in politics. They try to stay nonpartisan, but on issues that they believe are at odds with the teaching of the Catholic Church, they have weighed in. It is rare.
Pope John Paul also famously helped bring about peace and freedom in Poland during the Polish Solidarity movement back in the 1980s. So, yeah.
Can we just call Vlad a human
Yes,
encyclopedia?
he is. He is.
I mean, not only of historical facts, religious facts, pop
Music.
culture. I think you're one of the smartest people I know. It's
Nora,
always
coming from you,
great
that means a lot. Thank you
No, it's
very
always
much. I didn't have a lot
wonderful
of
to
friends
engage.
growing up, so just had books. So
That was his excuse, Nora. He's very
I know,
humble.
but it's always thank you. It's wonderful to engage in these conversations with the
really
both of you
is.
since you know so much about these issues. Thank you.
And the Catholic Church has been in existence for 2,000 years versus our country 250. So, you know, we really have seen a lot change in the Catholic Church, but our country is still so young. Nora, thank you so much.
Thank you.